I just spent about 30 minutes recording a bunch of videos of basically my history up till now. And what I realized is I'm not going to share that with you guys because that's really not important, but it was important for me to verbalize it in that way because I missed some stuff before, and this was a way that I could get it out and say how I felt about it and the things that I did for my kids and the things that I did for my ex-wife. But I'll just make this a little bit quicker because 30 minutes of video is a bit too much. I grew up in Dallas, was raised in Fort Worth, had a rocky childhood from my dad not being around to my mom marrying another guy and him doing all the things that dad did except for emotionally connect with me. It was a very difficult, trying situation with him because he was a lot older than my mom and he was military, so his whole logic and way of thinking was a lot different. He was an old school guy, and you listen to your mother and you don't talk back, and you don't, if she says no, that's it, shit like that. So once I got out of the house, I left the house early because I didn't want to listen to their rules. So I got out of the house early and started a difficult time where I was hanging out with a lot of bands and partying and getting caught up in certain aspects of that lifestyle that are detrimental in the long run, but you think it's all good. And at the time, I mean, it was fun. I have a lot of memories of a lot of good times and not a whole lot of memories of really shitty times because fortunately I got out when it started going bad. I stopped doing drugs, met a girl, we spent some time together, she got pregnant, or we got married and then she got pregnant, and things didn't go well for me and her because she wound up going to jail for violation of probation, and she was very upset at me that I was, I guess, not in jail. I have no idea. I never really figured that part out, but we butted heads and my daughter Abigail was born, and things for the first couple of years were very difficult between me and Star. She cheated on me numerous times. She did a lot of stuff behind my back and was not honest with me. And I was completely 100% faithful to her. I was completely 100% emotionally faithful to her. And she really did a fucking number on me. She was the first girl that I ever really was myself around because I always felt like my personality is very intense. I'm very, very intense. I don't know how to describe it. I'm all or nothing. So if I am with somebody, I'm with that person, and I'm very, I guess overbearing is probably a good word, even though I don't want to use that. So things, after a couple of years, started getting a little better, and I could spend time with my daughter. Of course, Star would have to stay the night at my apartment, and at this point, we had already gotten divorced, but she would stay the night at my apartment, and I was with another girl, and I mean, my girlfriend at the time was cool with it because she knew that I wanted to see my kid, and that was the only way that was going to happen. So that was the beginning of me and Star trying to be friends again, and it actually worked out. But at a certain point, it was on New Year's Eve, me and Star for whatever reason, I won't get into the specifics because it's a unique situation, but we were all three in a relationship for a little bit. Me, my girlfriend, and then Star was in that relationship for a little bit. It happened very suddenly. The girl I was with was okay with it, and it was basically like I had two girlfriends. If anybody knows about that kind of scenario, it never works out. The wheels do fall off of that shit. So that's what happened. But before that happened, she got pregnant. Well, that's how my son Elvis was born. That was the first time that me and her really clicked, because at this point she'd seen me with Abigail and she knew that I was a good dad and I was trying to do the best I could. So she allowed me to be part of that pregnancy quite a bit more than with Abigail. Things were better. So me and the girl that I was with, things didn't work out. It had a lot to do with me and Star. And at that point, I moved out, got my own apartment, and was hanging out outside one day and met this girl Amanda that lived next door to me. At that point, we were just friends, but I was single and she was single, and hanging out on the porch, drinking, and just bullshitting. Over time, we built a very strong friendship, and it progressed to more than friends. So at that point, we moved in together. She moved into my apartment. Her apartment was next door, and it was basically, her apartment is where the kids lived, and I say it's literally 5 feet apart. The kids stayed over there. She was at my house. In all honesty, their house was just like a playhouse. They rarely slept over there. They just hung out over there. But things were doing well. Me and Amanda were in a good spot. I love her very much even to this day. It just wasn't gonna ever work out like that. But we tried for many years, and during the course of this, Star was my ex-wife, my baby mama, was diagnosed with breast cancer. A very difficult thing for me and my family to go through. She chose to do an experimental treatment out down Del Rio, which is South Texas, and she didn't have much success. She was told that she needed a double mastectomy, chemo, radiation, all that stuff. She chose to do a different route, and within 6 months, she had to come back, and I went to the hospital to visit with her, thinking that I don't even know what the fuck I was thinking. I thought, at no point did I even believe or admit to myself that she was gonna die from this shit. I didn't. I just no, she's gonna figure this out. Everything's gonna work out. This treatment is gonna be the fucking shit, everything. Well, I walked into the hospital room and her mom was at the foot of the bed. And as I walked around the corner, because there's the bathroom is right there as soon as you walk in the bathroom, and then her bed. So you can't really see the bed from the front, but you can see her mom at the foot of the bed, and her mom's just sitting there looking over. And I walked around the corner, and that was the first time I'd seen her in a few months, and she was emaciated. She was blind. She couldn't speak because the medication that they were giving her had given her a yeast infection in her mouth, and because of all the antibiotics, and she was on so much morphine that she was really not very coherent. So I stepped back where she couldn't see me and just stood there in utter shock for a long time. And I looked at her mother, and her mom shook her head yes. And at that point, I knew what was happening. At that point, I knew that she wasn't going to be around much longer. So I told her mom, Gloria, I said, why don't you run to the house or go somewhere, get out of here for a minute. And her sister Sky was there too, but I didn't even realize she was there until after Gloria left. And as soon as she left, Sky was like, hey sis, is there anything you want to tell Pete? And this is when I heard it out of her mouth. She said, yeah, I'm really grateful that the kids that they have you and that they're gonna be with you, and I know Amanda's a good person, and that I'm not gonna be around much longer, and I've made my peace with God, and she told me where she wanted me to put her ashes, and she told me a bunch of other stuff about her finding God and she knew where she was going and she wasn't worried about that kind of stuff. So the next day I brought my kids there to see her, and she couldn't even open her eyes. Elvis sat on the bed. He was 3 years old, and he held her hand and was really confused about what was going on, because I surely the fuck was too. But then I started looking around, and I realized that I wasn't on the hospice floor. I didn't even notice that before. I didn't notice the fact that she was on minimal fucking IVs and just the minimal shit, just basically for medication, just to keep her comfortable while she was, I guess, transitioning, whatever the fuck you want to call it. So I took the kids into a room and sat down and told them what was happening. And I'll never forget that as long as I live, telling my 2 children that their mother was going to die, and they really didn't understand. I mean, Elvis was only 3 and Abigail was 7. No, she was 6. So we went back and hung out with her for a little bit, but she wasn't there. She wasn't gone, but she wasn't there. And I took them home and came back the next day, and she was in a coma, and she was non-responsive. Then I came back the next day and she had passed. It was on a Sunday. From that point on, I was emotionally unavailable. I took my kids to grief counseling at a place that was free, that was suggested to me, called The Warm Place. One of the greatest memories I have of this whole thing is the people that were there that helped me and my kids through this. It was an amazing place, and I hope one day I can give back to them for what they gave me. Me and Amanda, things went south. I cheated on her because I couldn't allow myself to be hurt again by a woman. So instead of just bowing out with any kind of grace, I met somebody and started having sex with that person while me and Amanda were still together. It hurt her immensely by being a shitty person, and the thing that I chose was a fucking clusterfuck to begin with, so it was definitely never gonna work out. There was too many too many variables that were against me on that situation. So I split up with that girl like we were not even really ever together, but after a few months, I I put out a fucking Match.com profile and had absolutely no interest. Nobody messaged me or nobody, any of that shit. So I canceled my subscription, and all of a sudden this girl sends me a message, and I guess you think you can view the message, or you can't view the message unless you're a member, but they'll let you know that you have a message just so they can kind of hook your ass and pull you back in. So I paid for another month, checked my message, and it was a girl named Jenny Cherry. Me and her hit it off very quickly. She lives in Dallas, and things progressed very fast. But for whatever reason, I swore to myself I would never get married again, and that I didn't want to live with any girl. That I couldn't feel those things anymore, and I shut down. So we had a lot of good times, but I was clear that I was not getting married, and that we weren't going to live together anytime soon. Well, a few years go by, and I guess I decided that I didn't want to be in a relationship anymore, but I didn't have the balls to tell her what I needed to tell her, or just fucking suck it up and realize that not all relationships are easy, and that there's challenging times and all that stuff. I just left one day and started hanging out with this other girl, and obviously with the intent to be with her physically, but not be with her in a relationship. And we started having sex, and I guess my goal at this point was not to be in a relationship, so I broke that off because she was taking things very quickly and seriously. She lived in Austin, and she wanted to move here, I guess, to be closer to me, and I was not interested in getting into another relationship. So I had a friend from school that our relationship started out strictly as friends, and I in fact told her that I do not want to have a sexual relationship with you, and that's the honest truth. It progressed into that, but that was not my intention in this. She had cancer, and I had been with Star in her treatment, and this girl I felt like needed somebody in her corner, and it just took me to a place that felt familiar, and I guess maybe I thought I could save this girl, or what the fuck ever, I don't even know. But I would go to her doctor appointments with her, and one night I went to her house, and I never stayed the night. But I was sitting on the couch, and we were watching a movie. I mean, we hadn't even been physical at this point. And she grabbed my hand and walked me into her room, and I said, "What are you doing?" And she started taking off her clothes. At that point, I felt a connection with her, and it became a physical relationship. I, again, did not want to be in a relationship with anyone, but I chose to do those two things. I had sex with a girl and then I had sex with another girl because, and the truth is, I didn't formally break up with Jenny. I was with her. I just wasn't there, and I chose to do other things, and that shit went down, and Jenny found out and sent me a bunch of screenshots of some messages that one of her friends sent her, and shit went sideways. We were able to work things out somewhat, but it was never the same. So there was a lot of mistrust, and there was a lot of confusion, and there was a lot of anger from her toward me, but she was at least willing to give me the benefit of the doubt and try. Well, it was basically very difficult from that point on to face what I'd done and to try and make things work. So at the end of 2018, me and Jenny were having a hell of a time, and I just felt like things were over. And we formally broke up, but we were still dating. We were still hanging out. I was still going over to her house and being with her and the kids and physically being intimate with her. I made a tattoo appointment and went to the tattoo appointment, and the dude that I went to get a tattoo from was an old booze fighter buddy, and he worked at a shop in Northside called Dark Side of Texas Tattoo. Was in there getting tattooed. It was on a Sunday. Nobody else was there, just me and him, and Rachel comes walking into the shop. Didn't have any kind of exchange with her even then, because I guess, I don't know, we didn't even say anything to each other. But I sent her a message a few months later and was like, hey, I want to get a hand poke tattoo. Is that something that you'd be interested in doing? And she's like, I don't even know what the fuck that is. And I said, where you like old school, tap, 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 like Tobori style? And she's like, I mean, I have never done that, but I guess I could. So I went into her shop, and instantly things were very charged. There was a very intense connection. She's attractive. She had a lot going for her, and it seemed like something that would be good for me. And what I mean by that is a friendship, and who knows, because in the beginning that certainly was not my intention. At this point I was still with Jenny. But like a snake, I was talking to Rachel and communicating with her, and things eventually progressed, and I went and hung out at her shop one night and left because, like I said, it was just friendship, but it was obviously an attraction there. So she called me later after she was at a bar and drunk and asked if I would come up there, and I was like, sure. So I went to the bar, hung out with her, and left. Well, she called me from her tattoo shop a couple of hours later and said that she was there, that they didn't want to drive, they were too drunk, and that she just wanted to talk to me for a minute. And when she was talking to me, I could hear that she was shivering, so I told her I would be there in a minute, that I would bring her a blanket. Well, went there, brought her a blanket, hung out, and we slept on the couch. Nothing else happened. I mean, we hadn't even kissed, but I was sleeping in bed with another girl. And things progressed very fast, and at that point, I told Jenny not exactly what happened. I just said that we can't be together anymore, and made a decision at that point to pursue Rachel in a relationship. And by doing that, I pursued her very fast. It went very fast. I moved in with her within a month. Within a few months, I'd already planned on asking her to marry me. And at a tattoo convention where she was, I guess, where she was entering some of her tattoos on her person, not ones that she had done, but she was on stage, and I'd talked with one of the guys, a friend of mine, the dude that did my tattoo that worked in her shop, and he got with the VJ or the fucking host or whatever and asked if I could go on stage and ask her to marry me. Well, that's what I did, went on stage, and she thought that it was gonna be me promoting my business, that it was me knowing somebody and being, going up there to promote Grassland. Well, I went up there and I had the ring on my pinky, and I got down on one knee, and she looked at me like, what the fuck? And smiled big, and I asked her to marry me, and she said yes. And things went pretty much downhill from there. Within a week of that, I'd left her because I freaked out. Decided that I don't think that this is what I can do, and me and Jenny sparked up a friendship. She was very helpful in me trying to figure things out, and she was very helpful in just being a friend. If I needed her, she wouldn't fucking hesitate to call me, try to talk me through shit, and help me out as a friend. So this happened for about a month, and I had no contact with Rachel until all of a sudden she decided she wanted to try and work things out. And I never once lied to her. I told her where I was, who I was with, and what I was doing. Because I wasn't gonna lie. I'd been a liar and a cheater for fucking too long, and that I wasn't gonna do that anymore. Karma has fully paid me back. Trust me on that. So she calls me, sends me this long ass text message about how I made a mistake, I love you, yada, yada, yada. So I decided that I would give it another try. And in the course of that, she told me that if I had any contact to do with Jenny or the kids, that we couldn't be together. So Jenny's two kids, I haven't raised them, but I've been there for them a good part of their life, the majority of both of their lives at this point. And I blocked them all from my Facebook, and I blocked their numbers, and I made no attempt to talk to them or explain to them what I was doing. And basically erased them from my life because I was asked to do so, and I thought what I was doing at that point was worth all of that. So I went back to Rachel, and things were never really the same. It seemed weird, like something else was going on, like there was things that didn't add up, and it was never going to be the same. But apparently I had to see it for myself. So I think that she was doing shit behind my back, and I couldn't get Jenny and the girls out of my head. When I was hanging out with Jenny, she made me download this motivation app, and it seemed like she was programming this shit, because everything that came through as a little message was something about, if you think about something every day, don't give up on it. Shit like that. I mean, just various messages that were, dude, you're a dumbass, you fucked up, in poetic, soft terms, but still, nonetheless, that's what it was. So time came where I had to leave, I realized that Rachel was never going to be there for me in the same way I was there for her. And I never once cheated on her, talked to any other women behind her back in a way that was not okay. Of course, I have friends, and I talk to my friends about my relationship, and that was not something she was comfortable with, but I was in no means trying to hook up with other girls. I didn't even call Jenny until after I split up. Well, one day, I asked her if she was gonna go do something with me that she had made plans to go do with me, and she said that she had a tattoo appointment, and that was it. I mean, there were so many little things that led up to that, but that was it. I left, got some shit, came to her house, our house, after work and got some shit, and then left. Well, I told her I'd be back for the rest of my stuff on Saturday. She did some shit that was very sneaky and shitty to me on my way there just to hurt me. So I got as much stuff as I could, piled it up in some buddy's van, and I had been messaging Jenny trying to apologize, hoping that maybe she would let me be around the girls and that we could sit down in a room and talk about this, and she was not having any of it, not even a little bit. So much so that she screenshotted the messages that I sent her and forwarded them to Rachel. So Rachel sends me a message, "You sneaky motherfucker," and blah, blah, blah. I mean, the truth is I wasn't talking to Jenny before. When I was with Rachel, I just wasn't. She can say whatever she wants to say, and that's fine. I get it that she's upset, but it's not the case. So I have been hanging out with my kids. I've been spending as much time with them as possible. I'm trying to give Jenny the space to see if there's any kind of possibility that we can work things out between us and try and repair what I have done personally, not what she has done. She's the one. So it's difficult for me to be patient and allow things to progress the way they're supposed to be, but that's pretty much catching everybody up to date. Obviously, I could stretch that fucking story out for hours, but at this point, I haven't made any attempts to contact Rachel. She was in a motorcycle accident and she's okay, but she's in the hospital, and I would like to check on her, but I can't be caught up in that situation with her anymore. I don't love her like I thought I did. I care about her very deeply, and I hope all the best for her, but she's not the one. She never was. I fucked up with the one because I was coward, I was scared of love, I couldn't commit, and I ran. And in the process, I tried to burn all the fucking bridges that I could. I said some horrible shit to Jenny. I said all the most evil things that I could say trying to hurt her because I felt like such a piece of shit and sad about what I had done that I became angry and tried to hurt people in the process. Some of those things I don't know that can ever be forgiven. I really just don't think they can. I'm gonna do whatever I take to try and repair it, but I don't know that it can be forgiven. I have to be patient. I have to take my time. I have to listen to my heart and just do what I can do because I love Jenny. I love her with all my heart, and I'm gonna continue to try and fix this with her. I mean, the relationship with my kids, it's so much better. We hang out, we joke, we bullshit. They're growing up, and that's hard for me to see my daughter, be 16 and talk more like an adult and have things, and conversations that are difficult for me because I still look at her as like a 5-year-old, she's still a little girl to me. And for me to look at her as almost an adult is difficult. So that makes me sad. And because of my sadness is always somehow converted into anger, I get pissed about it. And I'm currently going through therapy. I'm doing the medication thing. I'm meditating. I'm exercising. I'm doing all the things I can so that my mind is in the right place and so that I can fix the parts of me that are broken. And there's parts of that story that have to do with other things, but that's what it is. So the video today is basically an introduction to me and where I'm at. So where I'm at currently is I have my own jewelry shop. I have a business partner. He's pretty much silent, but he is my business partner. I'm trying to socialize as much as I can with my kids and be the man and the father that they need, including Jenny's kids, which are my kids too, Ava and Zayla. And then I have 2 kids with Amanda that are not biological, but they're my kids too, Nevaeh and Gabe, and then Abigail and Otis. So together I have 6 kids. I'm currently trying to repair the broken parts of my friendships with Amanda and with Jenny, and hopefully in this journey they'll be able to forgive me in a way that is beneficial to everyone and forgive me due to my action, not due to what I say. I'm trying to be more accommodating. I'm trying to help them out, like on a personal level, as far as logistics for kids and money and all that shit. I'm trying everything that I can do because I care about all of them. Amanda, Jenny, all 6 kids, and all the family and friends that got drug into this shit because of my dumb ass. So on a daily basis, I struggle, but on a daily basis, I do things that put me in a better place to figure this shit out. So I know this is a really long video and most people won't make it through, but if you did, I appreciate it. And that's probably, I know I've missed some stuff, but that's a good introduction to where I am and who I am and how things go. So I'll make it over now. Thanks.